Picture it. You're stranded on the side of a highway. Your car's out of gas, and the nearest town is miles away. It's a frustrating spot anyone could find themselves in. For 17-year-old Cassie Crowder, this exact scenario went from a simple annoyance to absolute horror. On a quiet Arkansas highway, she accepted a ride from someone who seemed like a good Samaritan. But as chilling surveillance footage would later show, this was her last ride, capturing not just her final moments, but the predator who sealed her fate. On June 20th of 2006, Cassie Crowder was just a regular high school senior, excited about what the future held. She spent the night at a friend's place and was driving her Dodge Durango home to Pine Bluff in the early morning. But around 5:20 a.m., her SUV sputtered to a stop on Highway 65. Stranded and alone, she did what any of us would do. She called her mom, explained she was out of gas, and said she'd figure something out. She tried a friend next, but the call went unanswered. In that moment of vulnerability, Cassie had to make a decision, one that would change everything forever. When Cassie's parents couldn't get a hold of her later that day, they drove out to the highway. They found her Durango locked with the hazard lights still blinking, but Cassie was nowhere in sight. For a full week, her family and the police searched desperately. Then on June 27th, their worst fears came true. Cassie's body was discovered in a wooded drainage ditch just off the highway. The cause of death was both shocking and brutal. She had been strangled with a black zip tie, pulled so tightly it had squeezed her neck to a circumference of just 3 inches. Her torn shorts suggest a violent struggle and an attempted sexual assault. The search for Cassie was over, but the hunt for her killer was just beginning. Investigators started by looking at Cassie's friends, but quickly ruled them out. The whole case came down to what happened on that lonely stretch of highway. With no witnesses stepping forward, the police turned to the only eyes that might have seen something: surveillance cameras. They pored over hours of footage from businesses along Highway 65. A gas station camera proved Cassie never made it there on foot. And then they spotted him. The breakthrough came from a Sonic fast food restaurant only 400 yards from where Cassie's car was found. At 6:42 a.m., a distinctive white Chevy pickup truck was caught on camera driving past, heading towards the abandoned Durango. Just 3 minutes later, at 6:45 a.m., the same truck was seen again, this time speeding in the opposite direction. Further down the road, another camera at a Dollar General captured the truck heading towards the remote area where Cassie's body would later be found. The timeline was damning. The footage laid out a clear, chilling path from the abduction to the dump site. The surveillance footage pointed police to their prime suspect, but actually, connecting him to the crime and getting justice would turn into a legal battle that spanned years. If you find this kind of deep dive compelling, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. The truck belonged to a 46-year-old local man named Kenneth Osborne. When police brought him in, another critical piece of the puzzle fell into place. An eyewitness, Nancy Dunn, told investigators she had seen Kenneth's truck that morning. She also noticed a young woman slumped over in the passenger seat, looking like she was asleep. Nancy waved, but Kenneth just stared straight ahead, stone-faced, and kept driving. Under interrogation, Kenneth confessed. He admitted he'd picked Cassie up. His story was that she panicked and threatened to jump from the moving truck. He claimed he hit her, knocking her out, then put the zip tie around her neck and dragged her into the woods with the intent to sexually assault her. He alleged she had strangled before he could. With a confession, the video timeline, and eyewitness, the case seemed airtight. In 2008, Kenneth Osborne was convicted of capital murder and kidnapping and sentenced to life in prison. But this story was far from over. A year later, the Arkansas Supreme Court overturned his conviction. The court ruled that investigators had violated Osborne's rights by continuing to question him after he had already asked for a lawyer. For Cassie's family, it was a gut-wrenching blow. The man who had confessed to killing their daughter was now facing a retrial and could possibly walk free. The legal fight dragged on. Finally, on June 18th of 2014, just before his retrial was supposed to start, Osborne took a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to the lesser charges of second-degree murder and kidnapping. In exchange, Cassie's family had one non-negotiable demand. He had to actually say the word guilty out loud in court. He was sentenced to 30 years for the murder and a consecutive 10-year sentence for the kidnapping, for a total of 40 years in prison. For Cassie's mother, Melinda, the plea deal wasn't real justice. You can't bring your child back, she said, but admitted it was better than nothing to know that he couldn't hurt another family. The 8-year ordeal left them with wounds that would never truly heal. Cassie Crowder's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how vulnerable anyone can be in a moment of need, and the evil that can lurk behind a helpful smile. But it also a testament of the power of a single, grainy image, a silent witness on a surveillance tape that refused to let a killer get away with murder.